The stars looked the same as always from Earth, tiny points of light in the night sky. But Captain Eleanor Wright knew something was different tonight. The sensors at the United Earth Defense Force headquarters were showing an unknown object just beyond the moon. "Are we sure it's not one of ours?" she asked, leaning closer to the screen. Lieutenant Gary Miller shook his head. "No, Captain. We've checked 3 times. It's not one of our satellites or ships. It's something else." Eleanor took a deep breath. This was the moment humans had both hoped for and feared since they first looked up at the stars. First contact with aliens. "Send the greeting message on all frequencies," she ordered. The control room was silent as they waited. Minutes passed. Then an hour. "They're moving," Gary said suddenly. "The object is changing position." The unknown ship moved closer to Earth, positioning itself in clear view of the planet's largest observatories. What happened next was broadcast on every screen across the world. A beam of light shot down from the alien vessel, projecting an image in the sky that everyone could see. A tall, purple-skinned alien with 4 arms stood looking down at Earth with clear disgust on its face. "Humans of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English, its voice echoing across all radio channels. "I am Captain Zex of the Vordaxian Empire. We rule over 300 star systems. We have watched your broadcasts. We have studied your world, and we have determined that you are not worth our time." Eleanor felt her face grow hot with anger, but she kept her voice calm. "This is Captain Eleanor Wright of Earth. We welcome peaceful." "Silence," the alien interrupted. "Your technology is laughable. Your weapons are toys. Your attempts at space travel are like watching children crawl in the dirt." The alien captain made a sound that could only be described as laughter. "The Emperor himself watched your moon landing videos and laughed until he cried. You took 8 days to reach your own moon. Our ships cross entire galaxies in that time." People around the world watched in shock as the alien continued. "You are barely evolved primates playing with sticks and rocks. We will not waste resources conquering such a worthless planet. You are not even worthy of becoming slaves in our empire." With that, the transmission ended. The alien ship moved away at impossible speed, disappearing from all sensors within seconds. Panic spread across the globe. Some people prepared for war. Others formed cults worshipping the aliens. Governments fell into chaos trying to respond to the threat. But in a secret facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Alan Donovan saw an opportunity. "Play it again," he told his assistant, watching the alien message for the 12th time that day. "Why do you keep watching it?" asked Wendy Barnes, his chief engineer. "It's just making everyone depressed." Alan smiled. "Because they made a mistake, Wendy. A big one." He pointed to his computer screen where he had analyzed the alien ship's energy readings. "They think we're stupid. They showed off their technology thinking we couldn't learn from it. But they revealed exactly how their engines work, how their shields function." He stood up and walked to the large window overlooking a massive hangar. Inside was the skeleton of a ship unlike anything built on Earth before. "Project Artemis was going to take us another 10 years to complete," he said. "But with what I learned from their ship, we can do it in 5. Wendy looked at the half-built ship. "You really think one ship can make a difference against an empire with hundreds of worlds?" Alan nodded confidently. "They laughed at us, Wendy. They mocked us and left thinking we would stay on our little planet, afraid and primitive." He pressed his hand against the glass, looking at his creation with pride. "But we're going to show them just how wrong they were about humanity." As word of Project Artemis spread among the world's leaders, funding poured in. The best scientists and engineers from every nation came together with one goal: to build a ship that would wipe the smug smiles off alien faces. The Vordaxians had laughed at Earth. Soon, they wouldn't be laughing anymore. 5 years passed quickly. The world had changed after the alien visit. Countries that once fought each other now worked together. Everyone had one goal: prove the aliens wrong. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Alan Donovan wiped sweat from his forehead as he looked at his creation. The ship was finally ready. "Run the final systems check," he told Wendy, who had become his right hand during the project. Wendy's fingers flew across the control panel. "All systems green, Alan. She's ready." The ship before them gleamed under the bright lights of the hangar. Unlike the bulky rockets of the past, this vessel was sleek and elegant. Its hull was made of materials that hadn't existed 5 years ago, developed by studying the energy patterns of the alien ship. "The U.S. Defiant," Alan said with pride. Humanity's answer to the Vordaxian mockery. 2 hours later, the underground hangar was filled with military officials and world leaders. They sat in silence as Alan explained what made the Defiant special. The propulsion system uses quantum folding technology. In simple terms, it bends space around the ship. This allows near-light speed travel without the time dilation effects Einstein predicted. He pointed to various parts of the ship model floating as a hologram in the center of the room. "The weapons systems use principles of quantum mechanics that we discovered by analyzing the Vordaxian ship's energy signature. And the neural interface allows the crew to control systems with their thoughts, making response times nearly instant." A general raised his hand. "You expect us to believe that in 5 years, you've created technology centuries ahead of what we had?" Alan smiled. "Necessity is the mother of invention, General. And having aliens laugh at your species is quite the necessity." After the presentation, it was time to select the crew. The world's best pilots, engineers, and soldiers had been training for this moment without knowing what ship they would command. Commander Olivia Martinez stood at attention as her name was called. At 38, she had already earned a reputation as one of the Navy's best tactical thinkers. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, her uniform perfect, but it was the intensity in her eyes that made people take notice. "Commander Martinez, step forward," said Admiral Peterson. "You have been selected to captain the U.S. Defiant on its maiden voyage." Olivia's heart raced, but her face remained calm. "It's an honor, sir. I won't let Earth down." Later, as she toured her new ship, Olivia met her second-in-command, Lieutenant Commander Samuel Jackson. He was inspecting the bridge with a critical eye. "What do you think, Jackson?" she asked. He turned to her, his expression serious. "It's impressive, Commander, but it's still just one ship. The aliens have hundreds, maybe thousands." Olivia nodded. "Dr. Donovan said you might have concerns." She led him to the viewport where they could see the full scale of the Defiant. "We don't need to defeat their entire empire, Jackson. We just need to change their minds about us." Sam wasn't convinced. "And how do we do that with one ship?" "By being unpredictable," Olivia replied. "The Vordaxians think they know everything about us. They think we're primitive and predictable. But humans are at their best when backed into a corner." As the crew settled into their quarters, Dr. Alan Donovan met with Olivia one last time before launch. "The ship has everything you need," he said. "But remember, some systems are still experimental. The quantum drive works perfectly in tests, but sustained use might cause problems we haven't predicted." Olivia nodded. "How long do we have?" "Theoretically, years. Realistically, I'd avoid using it for more than a few days at a time." As he turned to leave, Alan added, "One more thing, Commander. The Vordaxians don't know about the Defiant. The element of surprise is your greatest weapon. Use it wisely." That night, as the final preparations were made, Olivia stood alone on the bridge of her ship. Tomorrow, they would leave Earth behind and head into enemy territory. One ship against an empire. The odds were impossible. But then again, humans specialized in beating impossible odds. Quantum drive engaged in 3, 2, 1. The U.S. Defiant seemed to stretch for a moment, then vanished from Earth orbit. Inside the ship, the crew felt a brief sensation like falling. Then everything returned to normal. "Position?" Commander Martinez asked, her voice steady despite the historic moment. Navigator Kevin Phillips checked his screens. "We're at the edge of the solar system, Commander. The drive worked perfectly. A journey that would have taken months with our old technology took just 17 minutes. Olivia allowed herself a small smile. Step 1 of their mission was a success. Now came the hard part. Set course for the Epsilon Eridani system, she ordered. Intelligence suggested the Vordaxians had outposts there, monitoring approaches to their territory. Lieutenant Commander Jackson looked up from his station. Are you sure that's wise? We could observe from a distance first. If we want to make an impression, Sam, subtlety won't work, Olivia replied. The Vordaxians think we're still crawling around our own solar system. Let's surprise them. The Defiant's quantum drive engaged again. This time when they emerged, they found themselves facing not just an outpost, but a small Vordaxian colony. 3 warships orbited the planet. Battle stations, Olivia ordered calmly as alarms began to sound. But hold fire unless I command it. The enemy ships immediately moved to intercept them. On the main screen, a Vordaxian face appeared. This one had blue skin with ridges along its skull, wearing what looked like a military uniform. Unknown vessel, this is Sub-Regent Krath of the Vordaxian Empire. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourself immediately. Olivia stood, straightening her uniform. This is Commander Olivia Martins of the Earth ship Defiant. We come seeking proper introduction, since your last representative was rather rude. The alien's 4 eyes widened in surprise. Earth? The primitive world. Impossible. Your species lacks the technology to reach this system. As you can see, you were mistaken about us, Olivia replied. The sub-regent's shock turned to anger. Surrender your vessel and crew immediately. The Emperor will want to study how you stole advanced technology. Olivia smiled. We didn't steal anything. Humans are quick learners. She nodded to Tactical Officer Nicole Harris, who pressed a sequence of buttons. The Defiant suddenly vanished from the Vordaxian sensors, only to reappear in multiple locations simultaneously. What trickery is this? Demanded Krath. Quantum displacement technology, Olivia explained. Your ship saw our ship during your visit. You assumed we couldn't learn from what we saw. That was your first mistake. The Vordaxian ships opened fire, their weapons targeting all the Defiant images at once. But the real ship was already elsewhere, protected by shields far more advanced than anything Earth had 5 years ago. Their weapons can't penetrate our shields, Harris reported. Should I return fire, Commander? Olivia considered for a moment. Target their weapons systems only. Minimal force. We're not here to kill, just to make a point. The Defiant fired precise beams that disabled the weapon systems on all 3 Vordaxian ships without causing any casualties. The colony below watched in shock as their mighty warships hung helpless in space. Olivia opened the channel again. Sub-Regent Krath, this demonstration was a courtesy. Your ships are disabled but not destroyed. Your crews are unharmed. The Vordaxian leader's face showed a mixture of fear and rage. The Emperor will send hundreds of ships to destroy your world for this insult. That would be unwise, Olivia said firmly. Today we disabled your ships without casualties. That was our choice. We showed restraint. Don't mistake that for weakness. She leaned forward, her voice calm but carrying unmistakable warning. Humanity may be young, but we learn quickly. This is your only warning. Tell your Emperor that Earth is not to be mocked or threatened again. The channel closed. Olivia turned to her crew, who watched her with new respect. Set course for home, she ordered. Our message has been delivered. As the Defiant vanished back into quantum space, the Vordaxians were left with a new understanding of the species they had so casually dismissed. Earth was no longer just a primitive world. It was a threat. News traveled fast in the Vordaxian Empire. Within hours, Emperor Zulvex had heard about the Earth ship that had humiliated his forces. He smashed a crystal goblet against the wall of his throne room, purple face darkening with rage. One ship, one primitive human ship disabled 3 of our warships, he roared. The Imperial messenger trembled. Yes, Emperor, the reports are clear. The humans have technology similar to ours, perhaps even more advanced in some ways. Zulvex paced the massive throne room. Impossible. 5 years ago, they were using chemical rockets and radio waves. How could they advance so quickly? We believe they studied our ship during our visit to their world, said the messenger. The Emperor stopped pacing. They learned from just seeing our ship, without any access to our databases or engineers. For the first time, a flicker of worry crossed his face. Prepare a fleet, he ordered. 30 warships. Find this Earth vessel and destroy it. Then we will deal with their homeworld. No species challenges the Vordaxian Empire and survives. Fleet Commander Drav bowed. It will be done, Emperor. Meanwhile, aboard the U.S. Defiant, Chief Engineer Linda Watkins was examining the quantum drive with growing concern. The energy fluctuations are increasing, Commander, she reported to Olivia Martinez. The drive is experimental, and it's degrading faster than we predicted. Olivia frowned. How long will it last? Maybe 3 more jumps at most, Linda said. Then we'll need extensive repairs that can only be done back on Earth. Olivia faced a difficult choice. They could return to Earth for repairs, but that would mean losing their momentum. Or they could press deeper into Imperial territory, while they still had the advantage of surprise. Before she could decide, Intelligence Officer Gregory Collins rushed onto the bridge. Commander, I've intercepted Imperial communications, he said, out of breath. The Emperor has dispatched 30 warships to hunt us down. The bridge fell silent. 30 ships against their 1. That seems excessive, Olivia said with a small smile. They must be really upset. But Greg wasn't finished. There's more. Once they destroy us, they plan to attack Earth directly. They've identified our homeworld's location from our warp signature. Lieutenant Commander Jackson shook his head. Earth has no defenses against that kind of force. The rest of our fleet is years away from completion. Olivia stood up and walked to the main viewport, looking out at the stars. So going home isn't an option. If we return to Earth, we'll lead the Imperial fleet straight to our doorstep. What's the alternative? Asked Sam. We can't fight 30 warships with our 1 ship, even with our advanced technology. Olivia turned back to face her crew. Her eyes were bright with determination. If you can't win a fair fight, change the rules. We won't engage their fleet directly. Then what's the plan, Commander? Linda asked. We take the fight to them where they least expect it, Olivia replied. The Imperial capital itself. The crew exchanged shocked glances. That's suicide, Sam protested. The capital would have the heaviest defenses in the Empire. Exactly, Olivia nodded, which is why they won't expect us to go there. While their fleet searches for us near Earth, we'll strike at the heart of their empire. Greg leaned forward. What would that accomplish, even if we somehow reached the capital? What then? We've seen how their empire works, Olivia explained. Everything flows from the top down. The Emperor gives orders, everyone follows. It's their strength, but also their greatest weakness. She brought up a star chart on the main screen. We don't need to defeat their entire empire. We just need to change their minds about us. And for that, we need to speak directly to the one who makes the decisions. Linda crossed her arms. With the quantum drive deteriorating, this would be our final jump. There would be no coming back without repairs. Olivia looked at each crew member in turn. I won't order anyone to join me on what might be a one-way trip. This is volunteer only. One by one, the crew nodded their agreement. They had all seen what happened when the Vordaxians visited Earth. The fear, the shame. This was their chance to change everything. Set course for Vordax Prime, Commander Martinez ordered. It's time the Emperor learned that mocking humanity was the biggest mistake of his life. The U.S. Defiant slipped through Vordaxian space like a ghost. Using their stealth technology, they avoided detection as they passed outposts and patrol ships. Commander Martinez ordered the crew to gather as much information as possible during their journey. Every bit of intelligence helps, she told them. We need to understand our enemy better than they understand themselves. As they moved deeper into Imperial territory, a pattern emerged. Intelligence Officer Gregory Collins brought his findings to the bridge. Their entire empire runs on strict hierarchy, he explained, pointing to data on his tablet. Every minor decision needs approval from above. Nothing happens without the Emperor's knowledge. Olivia studied the information. So they're rigid, inflexible. That's a weakness we can exploit. The Defiant continued its silent journey, mapping strategic locations and military installations. While passing the Rigel system, they detected unusual communication signals. It's encrypted, but not in Vordaxian code, Greg reported. It's coming from the third planet. Communications specialist Patrick Rivera worked for hours to decode the signals. When he finally succeeded, his eyes widened in surprise. "Commander, you need to hear this," he said. The message played through the bridge speakers. It was a call for resistance against Vordaxian rule, sent by a species called the Tellarites. "We're not alone," Olivia realized. "There are others who want to break free from the Empire." Patrick nodded. "I found similar signals from at least 3 different systems. The Tellarites, the Nivari, and the Ophiuchi. All subjugated species planning resistance." A plan began to form in Olivia's mind. Open a secure channel to these resistance groups. Tell them we want to talk. Over the next few days, the Defiant made contact with representatives from each resistance movement. At first, they were suspicious of the human ship, but when Olivia shared footage of their encounter with the Vordaxian warships, attitudes changed quickly. "You disabled their ships without destroying them?" asked Krell, the Tellarate leader. His furry face showed disbelief. "No one has challenged the Vordaxians like this in centuries. We're not looking to destroy the Empire," Olivia explained, "just to change how they see us and how they treat other species." Slowly, trust built between the humans and the resistance leaders. When they learned of the fleet headed toward Earth, the other species offered their help. "The Emperor is planning something big," said Nara, the Nivari representative. Her translucent skin glowed as she spoke. "The Festival of Subjugation is in 3 days. All high-ranking officials will be at the capital." "What's this festival?" Sam asked. "It's when they celebrate their conquests," Krell explained. "They parade representatives from conquered worlds before the Emperor. It's meant to remind everyone of Vordaxian power." Olivia leaned forward. "So security will be focused on the ceremony, not on defending against outside threats." Nara nodded. "Exactly." A coalition formed between the Defiant crew and the resistance fighters. Together, they planned a daring operation. While the Imperial fleet searched for the human ship near Earth, they would strike at the Imperial command nexus on Vordax Prime. Medical Officer Dr. Sofia Rodriguez spent time with injured resistance fighters who had been brought aboard for treatment. She learned about their cultures, their suffering under Imperial rule. "The Vordaxians don't just conquer worlds," she told Olivia later. "They break spirits. They've forced these species to believe they're inferior." Olivia's resolve strengthened. Then we'll help them remember who they really are. The night before they would reach Vordax Prime, the coalition gathered on the Defiant. Representatives from 4 species, humans, Tellarites, Nivari, and Ophiuchi, stood together, united against a common enemy. "Tomorrow, we change the course of galactic history," Olivia told them. "Not through destruction, but by showing the Emperor that true strength comes from cooperation, not conquest." As the Defiant prepared for its final approach to the Imperial capital, Linda made one last check of the quantum drive. "It's barely holding together," she reported. "This jump to Vordax Prime will be our last for a long time." Olivia nodded grimly. "Then we better make it count." The Imperial capital of Vordax Prime gleamed like a jewel against the darkness of space. Massive buildings covered its surface, with ships constantly arriving and departing. Around the planet, a network of defense satellites formed an impenetrable shield. At least it was supposed to be impenetrable. "Ready for final approach," Navigator Kevin Phillips said, his fingers dancing across the controls. "I've plotted a series of micro-jumps that should get us past their outer defenses." Commander Martinez nodded. "Coalition ships, stay in formation. Remember the plan." The small fleet, the Defiant and 6 resistance vessels, moved into position. Their strategy relied on perfect timing and the element of surprise. "Begin Operation Thunderclap," Olivia ordered. The Defiant executed a series of short quantum jumps, appearing and disappearing around Vordax Prime's defense grid. Each jump lasted only seconds, but it was enough to confuse the Imperial sensors. "They're scrambling to respond," Greg reported with a smile. "Their defense grid is trying to track us in 7 different locations." On the surface of Vordax Prime, the Festival of Subjugation was in full swing. Emperor Zulvex sat on his massive throne, watching as representatives from conquered worlds bowed before him. The ceremony was interrupted when an aide rushed in, whispering urgently in the Emperor's ear. "What do you mean, an Earth ship?" Zulvex roared. "That's impossible." Above the planet, the battle intensified. Vordaxian defense ships rose to meet the intruders, but the coalition was ready. Resistance fighters targeted communication hubs, while the Defiant engaged the main defense fleet. "Shields holding at 80%, reported Sam as the ship shook from a direct hit. Olivia turned to Tactical Officer Nicole Harris. "Time for Phase 2. Nicole activated the Defiant's quantum weapons. Beams of energy shot out, not targeting the enemy ships but the defense satellites around the planet. One by one, the nodes in the planetary shield network went dark. "Shield network is down," Nicole announced. "We have our window." Olivia stood up. "Nicole, you have command of the strike team. Get to the surface and secure the Imperial Command Nexus." Nicole nodded, already heading for the transport bay where a team of humans and resistance fighters waited. Their small craft launched from the Defiant, racing toward the planet while battles raged above them. The strike team landed near the Imperial Palace and fought their way through streets filled with confused Vordaxian citizens and panicked soldiers. Nicole led from the front, using her tactical training to outmaneuver the Imperial forces. "The command center is 2 levels down," said Krell, the Tellarate fighter, as they reached the palace. Inside the Defiant, a new crisis emerged. The quantum drive's instability was affecting other systems. "The reactor is overheating," Linda reported urgently. "If it goes critical, it could take out half the city below us." Chief Security Officer Daniel Porter volunteered immediately. "I can stabilize it manually, but I'll need to enter the core chamber." Olivia hesitated. The radiation levels in there would be fatal. Daniel met her eyes steadily. "Better one life than millions, Commander." As the battle continued around them, Daniel made his way to the reactor core. Working quickly despite the intense heat and radiation, he managed to prevent a catastrophic meltdown. His last communication to the bridge was calm and clear. Tell the Vordaxians that humans understand mercy too." On the planet's surface, Nicole's team fought their way to the Imperial Command Nexus. They expected to find the Emperor surrounded by elite guards. Instead, they found Zulvex hiding behind automated defenses, his personal guards having fled. "Stay back," the Emperor shouted, his voice lacking the authority it had when he'd mocked Earth years before. Nicole lowered her weapon. "We're not here to kill you, Emperor. We're here to talk." Zulvex stared in disbelief as the humans and resistance fighters surrounded him, but made no move to harm him. "Who are you people?" he asked, fear mixing with confusion in his voice. Nicole smiled grimly. "We're the primitives you laughed at, and we have a message from Earth." Emperor Zulvex sat rigidly in his throne room, surrounded by humans and resistance fighters. His 4 hands trembled slightly, though he tried to hide it. "What do you want?" he demanded. "Why not just destroy me as I would have destroyed you?" Commander Martinez had joined Nicole's team on the surface. She stepped forward, her uniform still bearing scorch marks from the battle. "Because true strength isn't measured by your capacity for destruction," she said calmly, but by your choice not to use it. The Emperor looked confused. This wasn't how conquering forces were supposed to act. Throughout the galaxy, your empire is built on fear, Olivia continued. You mock those you consider weaker. You force them to believe they're inferior. But today, that changes. She activated a small device. Screens throughout the palace and across the empire came to life, showing footage from the battle, not just the fighting, but also Daniel Porter's sacrifice to save Vordaxian lives. We could have destroyed your capital, Olivia explained. Instead, one of our crew gave his life to prevent that. We disabled your ships rather than destroying them. We captured you rather than killing you. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. What are your terms? Independence for all worlds that desire it, Olivia stated, and peaceful coexistence with those who wish to remain part of a reformed empire. Just then, several elderly Vordaxians entered the room. The Council of Elders, advisors to the Emperor, had been watching everything unfold. The humans show wisdom beyond their years, said the oldest among them. Perhaps we have been wrong about many things. The Vordaxian Council of Elders agreed to begin negotiations. As news spread throughout the empire, the responses varied. Some worlds celebrated their coming freedom. Others worried about the future. But all were shocked that the primitive humans had not only defeated the mighty Vordaxian fleet, but had shown mercy in victory. 2 weeks later, the Defiant prepared to return home. The quantum drive had been repaired with help from Vordaxian engineers, who were eager to learn from the humans in return. Ready to go home, Commander? Sam asked as they stood on the bridge. Olivia nodded. More than ready. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted as news of the victory reached every corner of the globe. When the Defiant finally landed, crowds cheered for hours. Dr. Alan Donovan met them at the landing pad, Olivia's final report in his hand. One ship changed everything, he remarked, looking at the battered but still proud Defiant. Olivia shook her head. Not the ship. The people on it. 6 months later, Earth hosted the first Galactic Concord Summit. Representatives from 50 species, former enemies and new allies alike, gathered to discuss the future of interstellar relations. The Vordaxian Empire had transformed into the Vordaxian Republic, with the Emperor now serving as an elected leader. Commander Martinez, now Admiral Martinez, watched as former adversaries engaged in peaceful dialogue. She thought about how different things might have been if humans had responded to mockery with destruction rather than determination. Penny for your thoughts, Admiral, asked Dr. Donovan, joining her at the observation window. I was just thinking about how sometimes the greatest victories come not from weapons, but from choices, she replied. Below them, Emperor Zulvex was deep in conversation with representatives from Earth and other worlds. The purple-skinned alien who had once laughed at humanity now treated them with respect. The Vordaxians were right about one thing, Alan noted. We were primitive 5 years ago. But they were wrong about what that meant. Olivia smiled. They thought being young meant being weak. They didn't understand that being young also means having the courage to imagine things differently. As the summit continued, news arrived that the second and third Earth ships were ready for launch. Humanity was taking its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as builders of bridges between worlds. The Empire had laughed at Earth, but Earth had the last laugh, not through mockery or destruction, but by creating something better than an empire. They had created peace.